there, and welcome to your wonderful, fabulous life. Now, I have a quick question for you. When you think about your life right now, does it seem like things are going really, really slowly and like there's so much more on the inside of you than what you're actually seeing and experiencing and walking in on the outside and in your life? Well, if so, I want you to stay tuned with me because I really want to encourage you and I want to share some keys with you on going from this to this. So stay tuned. Hey there, and welcome to your wonderful, fabulous life. My name is Rhonda Crawford, and I'm so glad that you're joining me today. Now, as I said in the introduction, I feel like for many of us, we have certain areas in our lives where we feel stuck in caterpillar mode. And I just want to share some things with you today for all of us to kind of get up and get out of that position and over into who God has created us to be. Now, if you read the Old Testament, if you read Exodus, if you read Numbers, if you read Deuteronomy, you'll see an account of God bringing his people out of slavery in Egypt and over into the Promised Land. And as he's doing this, it's really unfortunate because his people end up wandering in the desert on the way to the Promised Land for 40 years. Can you imagine? 40 years is a really long time. But the reason why they ended up wandering in the desert for 40 years, a lot of it has to do with the fact that they really didn't believe that God was who he said that he was the miracle working God that brought them out of Egypt. A lot of times they had trouble really believing that. And not only that, but they also had trouble believing that they were who God had created and said that they were to be as well. And so because of that, they end up in this place of wandering. So, God comes to his people after these 40 years of them wandering in the desert, and he says this to them in Deuteronomy 1:6. He says, "You have stayed on this mountain long enough. It is time for you to break camp and move on." And I believe that is the same word today for those of us who feel stuck as caterpillars, kind of chugging along, going slowly through life. That God is saying, you know what? You've been on this mountain too long. It's time for you to break camp. It's time for you to stop feeling comfortable being a caterpillar. It's time for you to stop making excuses for being a caterpillar. It's time for you to stop accepting that you're still in the caterpillar stage. And it's time for you to break camp. It's time for you to move on. And it's time for you to be the butterfly that I've created you to be. And it's very interesting because when you look at and study caterpillars and their transition into butterflies, there are a lot of parallels to really this process even for us as we are transforming into who we are created to be. And one interesting fact about the caterpillar is that, it only has really 6 legs. I know it looks like it has a lot more. I know maybe even looks kind of gross, but it really only has 6 legs, and all those other legs that it looks like it has, they're actually called false legs. And those false legs are there just for the purpose of helping it to hold on to whatever it is attached to. And we can kind of look at that in our lives. When we stay caterpillars for too long, we end up holding on to the past. We end up holding on to the comfort zone. We end up holding on to excuses. And really, those things don't help us to transform. They just kind of keep us stuck in the same position day after day, year after year, going all the time doing the same thing. And it's really time for us to get up and get out. Another interesting thing about caterpillars is that they are experts at hiding. See, their bodies are not very strong, and because of that, they are very fearful of predators. And so they have become experts at, they can camouflage and become the same color, whatever leaf is they're around. And they really want to go through life without anybody detecting them, without anybody knowing who they are, where they are. And I think that also can translate with us when we're in the caterpillar stage too long, where we just become comfortable hiding. We become comfortable with not allowing the real us to be expressed to the world. And, I think for some of us, many people don't really even know who the real us is because she hasn't really been released because of fears of rejection, or maybe because of feeling like, I don't even know who the real me is. Well, it's time for us to stop hiding. It's time for us to stop getting under the leaf and stop getting into the place where nobody knows who we are and where we feel comfortable when nobody knows anything about us. It's time for us to really start to blossom, really start to bloom, really start to transform and be that butterfly that is an impact on the people and the communities that surround us. That's really God's plan for our lives. And another interesting thing about caterpillars is this: all they do is eat. That's it. All they do, from morning till night, sun up to sundown, all they do is eat. But now, what's interesting is that they're eating like that, not just because they just are supposed to eat and enjoy the food that they're eating, not just because they're just supposed to eat and get big and plump. They're eating because they're in preparation for the stage where they go into the chrysalis and they change into the butterfly. So there's a reason why they're eating so much. But I think for some of us, what we do is we get information about different things that, may be on our heart to do. Those of us that attend church, we go to church and we hear, the word that's being preached every week, and we feel like, okay, that was something that was good, that was beneficial to me, and so we listen to it, and we may even review our notes sometimes. Some of us have all types of education and degrees. But you know what? All of that is supposed to propel us into something else. We're not just supposed to take it in and get spiritually fat. We're not just supposed to take it in and get bigger. We're supposed to take it in and transform. And so I want to encourage you today that it's time to move from this place, to break camp. And it's time to say, Mr. Caterpillar, you know what? It's time for me to move on, and it's time for me to be something bigger and be something better. Because you know what? The other interesting thing about the caterpillar is that on the inside of it, while it's a caterpillar, is everything necessary for it to transform into a butterfly. So all the parts, all the pieces, all the DNA, everything that's necessary for that butterfly to flourish and to grow is on the inside of the caterpillar. It's just in a place of dormancy until it's time for the transformation. And so I want you to know right now that everything you need to be the butterfly, to be the person that God has created you to be, is already on the inside of you right now. It's not out there. It's not in another class. It's not in a degree. It's not in a relationship. It's not on social media. It's on the inside of you right now. And it's time for us to say, you know what? I don't need validation from any other person on this earth. I already have validation from my Heavenly Father. And I'm going to step out and be everything that He has called me to be. I'm going to stop hiding. I'm going to stop just taking it all in and not giving anything out. And I'm going to demand of myself transformation. A great quote that I heard from Dr. Dave Martin said this. It says, always remember that your future is not ahead of you. Your future is something that is on the inside of you. And I just want to leave you with that. Your future is on the inside of you. God has already kind of designed it in your spiritual DNA. And now it's time to get into that chrysalis. It's time to release the dormancy, and it's time for all of those things to flourish and come out. And it's time for you to transform into the beautiful butterfly that God has called you to be. Now, if this has added value to you, I want to ask you to go ahead and go ahead and share with your friends, comment, ring the bell so that you can be notified every time I upload a new video, because on this channel I am committed, and it is my passion to assist women in becoming the she we were designed to be. So we'll see you next week. Be blessed. Bye.